Hi, I'm Tom with Kuat Racks. I'm going to show you how to install your NV onto your vehicle as well as load a bike onto it. So your first step, now that you have your NV, it's assembled, it's ready to go, you're going to take the rack and place it into the receiver on your vehicle. When you do this, as you slide it in, you want to line up the pinholes. The one that's on the rack, line that up with the one on the vehicle. Once those pinholes are lined up, you take your lock and hitch pin that comes with your NV, slide it through those two pinholes and lock the other side. Now, when you slide this in, the trick is to make sure that, once you slide this in, make sure that you lock the other side. Give it a good tug just to make sure that the lock is engaged and it's not going to come off. Now, a neat little trick here to keep the hitch pin from rattling around as you move or as you drive is to either push or pull the rack up next to the pin. So what I'm going to do is just apply a little bit of pressure so the rack pushes up against the locking hitch pin. The next step is to tighten down your hand-tight cam system. This is the process that tightens down the rack inside the receiver. It takes out all that movement and gives your bike a really good ride. So as you tighten this down, you'll notice that the rack starts to stiffen up inside the receiver. Good, so we're all set. Okay, well, now that your rack is successfully installed in your vehicle, I'm going to show you how to use one of the neat features that really sets the NV rack apart from other racks. It's the TrailDoc on the outside, or the work stand. So when you want to use the work stand, the first step is to raise it up and put it in that position that works well to work on a bike. So you release that quick release, turn it out to a 90-degree angle, and as you raise that, the pin on the side will engage and drop into the hole. Locking that quick release back down will give your TrailDoc a nice solid feel onto the rack. Open up the jaws at the top. Now inside that, there's a nice carbon-friendly material, so it's going to be really easy next to your bike. The lever on the back will allow this to pivot to several different positions in order for you to grab your bike. Now, I've got it set up to grab the frame, so I'll just raise the bike up, open up the jaws, place the bike in, tighten it back down, and now I've got a great station to work on my bike, pre, post ride, or just in the garage. Okay, so now it's time to load the bike. First step in loading a bike is you want to drop the rack down to that loading position. So pulling the pin down on the pivot lever, allowing the rack to drop. Now it is a spring-loaded pin, so it will automatically find that next position, but it's still a good idea just to make sure that that pin is fully engaged. Now, loading the bike, you raise the ratchet arm and go ahead and undo the rear tire strap. When the bike goes on, the rear tire is going to go here, front tire up, and the front tire scoop. Now this rack works really well for really any type of bike. Road bikes, mountain bikes. It really is going to be tough to find a bike that the rack's not going to fit. So the rear tire strap will adjust back and forth in order to fit the wheelbase of your bike. Rear tire strap runs through the wheel, back into the ratchet system, and then pull it snug. Now, you don't need to pull that super tight. It just needs to be nice and snug on the rear wheel, not super tight. For the front wheel, you have the ratchet arm. Depressing the button on the ratchet arm will allow you to extend it all the way out, up over the top of the front wheel, and then slide down. Now the placement of the ratchet arm is very important. It needs to go over the apex of the tire, close to the front fork or close to those front brakes, pretty much right up next to them. And again, just like with the rear tire strap, it doesn't need a lot of pressure. You don't need to get crazy with this. It just needs to have enough to support the bike. So now your bike's loaded. For a little bit of security, the NV comes with a set of cable locks. I'm going to show you how to properly lock the bike with the cable locks. So you have one cable lock on this end, and then you also have a cable lock that comes out on the opposite end of the rack. Now the proper way to lock your bike with the NV, the cable lock is going to run through that rear triangle on the back of the bike. The cable's not very long, and it's designed for that. So when you lock the bikes, especially if you have two on here, the cable runs up through the rear triangle on the bike. You have a second bike up on here, it does the same thing, and then lock the two together. So now you've successfully loaded your bike onto your NV. You've also locked your NV for some really good visible security when your bike isn't in your sight. But now you need to get into the rear of your vehicle. So in order to access the rear of your vehicle and still have a bike on the rack will pivot down another 40 degrees. So with bikes on there, it does make it a little trickier to reach that pivot lever, but you reach in and grab that pin, what'll happen is now the rack can drop down another 40 degrees in order for you to get into the back of your vehicle with the bike still on it. Of course, to come back up, you can grab the rack, automatically finds that next position with the pin, and you're ready to go.